I didn't plan to overhear them, but once I did, I couldn't unhear it. Two students in the back of my classroom, laughing about my intelligence, saying things so wildly absurd it was like watching two brain cells share a single cup of coffee. But when one of them said, everyone from New York is either Jewish, gay, or smart, he's at least two, something inside me snapped. They thought I was clueless. They thought I was weak. They thought I wasn't listening. They were wrong. And I made sure they'd never forget it. Before we dive in, if you've ever been underestimated, disrespected, or quietly plotting the most beautiful revenge in your mind, go ahead and smash that subscribe button. Like the video so the algorithm knows you're here for poetic justice. And drop a comment telling me the wildest thing you've ever heard someone say behind your back. All right, let's get into the story. I teach history at a mid-sized college, the kind of place where half the students genuinely want to learn and the other half are just waiting for life to magically hand them a personality. Now, I love teaching, but what I don't love is arrogant stupidity. Two students in particular, we'll call them Ethan and Kyle, were masters of it. They weren't bad kids, just painfully unaware of their intellectual limits. The kind of students who would turn in essays with sentences like, Napoleon conquered France with sheer willpower and because he was short, or Egyptians built pyramids as giant triangle Wi-Fi towers. And yet somehow they thought I was the idiot. Every class they'd sit in the back, whispering comments so bizarre that sometimes I genuinely wondered if they were performance artists. But this day was special. It started innocently enough. I was gathering papers, standing a few steps away, when Kyle leaned over and whispered, "Chor, I think the paperclip in this story represents her vagina, and he stole her paperclip, so he symbolically stole her vagina." I froze, not because I was shocked, but because it was so wildly, incomprehensibly stupid that my brain physically rejected it. Ethan nodded seriously, like a philosopher contemplating the cosmos. "Yeah, bro, everything in literature is just like vaginas. I swear I felt my soul leave my body, but that wasn't the end, not even close." Next came the history commentary. Ethan sighed dramatically. "Sure, I don't get history at all. People fought wars over the dumbest things, like the Revolutionary War. They could have just talked it out over tea." Kyle nodded. "Sure, and World War I was because someone shot Franz Kafka. I had to bite my tongue hard enough to leave teeth marks. Franz Kafka, an author who died decades later from tuberculosis, not an assassination. But they were unstoppable." Ethan continued, "Sure, like the Roman Empire, how were they in Italy and Jerusalem at the same time? Did they have, two armies?" I'm convinced if I had asked him to name one Roman emperor, he would have said, Julius Caesar salad. Yet the exact moment, that lit the fuse was when Kyle said this tour. Dude, I just realized something. Protestants are called Protestants because they were Protestant G. He sounded like he had just discovered gravity. And then, the grand finale. Kyle looked around the classroom like he was unveiling a conspiracy theory. "Sure, everyone from New York is either Jewish, gay, or smart, and there's a lot of overlap. What do you think our professor is? He's at least two." Ethan snorted. "Sure, definitely not the smart one." They laughed. Full belly laughter. And I stood there with their graded essays in my hands, both with big, generous C-minuses, thinking, oh boys, you have absolutely no idea who you're messing with. Now, here's the thing about me: I don't yell. I don't punish out of spite. I don't lower grades out of anger. That's amateur-level revenge. No, I prefer educational revenge. Revenge that teaches a lesson. Revenge that improves the world by eliminating at least a small amount of stupidity. So I crafted a plan, a beautiful, elegant, historically accurate plan. The next week, I announced to the class, surprise, we're doing a group presentation. You'll each be assigned a historical topic. You will research it fully, and you will be graded not just on your content, but on how accurately you answer questions at the end. The class groaned. As expected. Then I delivered the killing blow. Ethan and Kyle, your partners. Your topic is World War I origins, causes, and key figures. Their eyes lit up. "Oh, HEA, we know this one," Kyle said confidently. I smiled sweetly, sinisterly. "Yes, I'm sure you do. Over the next week, I watched them study in the library, if you can call it that. I passed by their table and heard Kyle saying, "Tor, bro." Franz Kafka's assassination was like the domino effect. Once he got popped, the world went crazy. And Ethan, bless his heart, replied, "Yeah, man. Like, if he hadn't died, there would be no Great Depression." I had to walk away before I ruptured something. I didn't correct them, didn't guide them, didn't save them. Because sometimes you have to let people fail spectacularly. The day arrived. The class was buzzing, obviously aware that something was about to go down. Ethan and Kyle marched up confidently, loaded with a PowerPoint that looked like it was designed by a toddler who discovered word art for the first time. Slide 1 popped up. Double war 1 teen. "Tie biji opsu," I pinched the bridge of my nose, they began, and it was a masterpiece of misinformation. They claimed Franz Kafka was an Austrian prince targeted by Serbian ninjas. The assassination was broadcast on live radio. World War I lasted 5 years and 2 months, depending on the weather. Italy joined because they were bored. Trenches were invented accidentally when soldiers tripped while running. At one point, Ethan, Choi. The Treaty of Versailles was written in French because France was feeling sassy. The class was silent. The kind of silence where everyone is trying not to make eye contact so they don't burst out laughing. But the real fun began when they finished, because then came the Q&A. I stood slowly. "Great presentation, gentlemen. A few questions." They smiled like puppies waiting for treats. I started simple. "Who was Franz Ferdinand?" Kyle blinked. "Franz Kafka's brother." A ripple of suppressed laughter rolled through the room. "And what exactly did he write?" "Or speeches." I nodded. "Interesting, very interesting. Next question. What year was he assassinated?" Ethan whispered loudly to Kyle. "Bro, was it like 1901? Or earlier? When did radios exist?" Someone in the back burst out laughing. The boys were sweating now. Finally, I went in for the kill. "Could you explain why you believe Franz Kafka, an author who was not assassinated, was the cause of World War I?" The silence was breathtaking. Kyle sputtered. "Well, Google said." "No," I cut in gently. "Google did not say that." Then I clicked my laptop. Behind me, on the projector, their OWN notes appeared. I had quietly taken pictures earlier when they left their papers unattended. Highlighted. Circled. Dated. Including the line, "Tor, World War I. Franz Kafka shot by Serbian anarchist. Domino effect. All downhill from there." Not the class erupted. Not in cruelty, but in pure disbelief. Ethan looked like he wanted to melt into the carpet. Kyle was staring at the ceiling like he was praying for God to katralpazi his life. I let the laughter die down. Then I said, kindly but firmly, "Gentlemen, this is why we verify information. This is why we study. This is why we don't make assumptions, especially not about real historical tragedies." They nodded rapidly, red-faced, humiliated, and suddenly very, very aware of their own ignorance. And one last note. I added with a smile. "I appreciate you discovering the meaning of Protestants." That's a good start. The class exploded again. Both boys nearly sprinted back to their seats. After class, they approached me, quieter, humbled, respectful. "Professor, we're sorry," Ethan said softly. "We were kind of stupid." I nodded. "We all have stupid moments. What matters is whether you learn from them." And you know what? They did. From that day forward, they took notes. They asked questions. They double-checked facts. They didn't whisper nonsense in the back anymore. Revenge accomplished. Not cruel. Not petty. Just educational justice. And honestly, there's nothing more satisfying. Sometimes the best revenge isn't destruction. It's illumination. You hold up a mirror, let people see the consequences of their own ignorance, and watch them grow. Because the deepest humiliation is realizing you weren't as smart as you thought, and the greatest victory is helping someone become better because of it. If you enjoyed this story of poetic classroom level vengeance, hit that like button. It genuinely helps the channel grow. Subscribe for more wild Reddit revenge stories, and comment below. What's the dumbest thing you've ever heard someone say with full confidence? I want to read the best ones. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next story.